Hello and welcome to the channel. This is going to be the first video for the channel. It'll be covering Crystal of Atlan, the global launch.
Fragment of the crystal.
My initial thoughts on this game
All right, time to
was
leave these
that it
ruins.
was going to
Didn't think
be
it'd be
a
this easy.
open world MMO style game, and that's not really what it is. It's more of an instanced dungeon sort of
Just in
game.
time. I could use a quick
So
haircut.
definitely take that into consideration when you plan on playing it, if you do. The initial experience with it was the intro to the game. Obviously, the beginning was more of a tutorial for the classes. The story wasn't really there. There was not a lot of stakes or anything like that that got you into it. And overall, in the story, it was very difficult to care about most of what was happening. I couldn't really follow it, and just because I wasn't interested, right? Like, there were a few interesting moments, a few times where I got actually sort of invested, but they were pretty forgettable, and you're definitely not playing this game for the story. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, just because the story was, it served its purpose, but it definitely wasn't anything special. That's pretty commonplace with a lot of ARPGs. I wouldn't hold it against the game, and it was still fun, so hopefully you stick around to see why I say that. The quests were pretty straightforward, and they had some exceptions of it being straightforward, because sometimes it got a bit confusing, but not so confusing that it actually stopped me for longer than like 30 seconds. The side quests weren't invasive, which I always love. I despise when games have like 20 plus side quests they fill you up on, especially when they're like automatically given to you, but that this game does not do that. And I want to talk about the crafting, the upgrading, and the gacha system in it. So the crafting in it, I didn't get too in depth with, but it was understandable, at least from the beginning. I definitely understood what I was doing with it. It wasn't super complicated, at least not yet, because again, I'm not at the end game. The upgrading was basically the same, not at the end game, so I didn't get too in depth in it, but it was pretty simple to understand. The gacha system was pretty par for the course. I would definitely was not expecting there to be one, and I'm so hoping that it's not going to become a problem later on, because if you don't know the gacha system in the game, it gives you cosmetics that have stats attached to them. So the titles, the costumes, and there's something called title insignias, I believe, that you attach to titles, which give those titles further stats. They were not too bad. I don't think they're super, you know, like they're gonna become a super big problem. I definitely hope they don't. But the hope is that it doesn't become a problem in the long run. That's just my main hope. And the pet system, I didn't really get into because I kind of stopped my progression before I was able to get to that point. And if you didn't know, the game is not infinite play. There is a energy system in it, and it sort of halts progression once it runs out. And I was planning on making this video after my energy ran out, so I've reached that point. I've been playing for about 3 to 4 hours, I believe. And something I did notice was that I didn't have to upgrade my gear as much when I was progressing, which is super nice. I don't like doing that. I don't like investing materials and like useful components for later gear early on. So I was super happy with that. Overall, I'm gonna give that the entirety of the crafting, upgrading, and gacha like a 7 out of 10 so far. Obviously, that may go up or down depending on the gacha system and how they implement that later on. The crafting and upgrading, again, weren't super in depth, so they don't get any bad ratings for that, and that's simplicity goes a long way. So the combat definitely took a bit of getting used to, but once I did, it was actually pretty fun. The combos that you can do at least with the fighter, which I was playing, and I spec'd into Starbreaker later on. It was pretty creative. The Starbreaker is more of a frontline fighter definitely more of a push through the enemy sort of deal instead of like dodging a ton, but you do still get rewarded for dodging, which is nice and definitely necessary for games like this. So and honestly, the more I played it, the more I was getting into the combat, because it was genuinely that fun, and it actually looks kind of stunning, because even for the graphics that it has, because it feels like it's just super optimized for mobile, which is pretty commonplace. It is a mobile game at its core, I think. So the mechanics in it were pretty mobile adjacent. It had like skill highlighting, and the controls were super simple, but it was still fun to play. The cutscenes again didn't feel that impactful. It was very rare that I was actually paying attention when I was playing. Honestly, I was doing literally anything else than watching them, but that doesn't mean they were bad. I just wasn't able to pay attention. So at least for the visuals, I'll give them a 7 out of 10, and the combat is an 8 out of 10, because that's definitely the main reason you play the game, is for the combat. Again, I'm sort of excited to see the in-game, to see what that's going to look like. Because I don't actually know. I know there were previous beta tests, and I do believe there are other channels, and I'll put those up here, that sort of covered the beta content, and I think they did a good job of doing that. So my overall experience was pretty good, and the main comparison I noticed was sort of just L-Sword and another game called Dungeon Fighters Online. I believe that's the name of it. The sort of instance dungeon, the cosmetics giving stats sort of remind me of that. And it's definitely was super reminiscent, which is kind of insane because I haven't played that game since I was 12, I believe. And the fact that it just really reminded me of that. But so the main question I want to answer is, will I continue to play it? I think yes for now, and I'll stream it too. But I won't be spending any money on it, because it's just not the type of game that I think I would spend money on. It'll be fun to progress free to play up until you hit max level, which I believe is 60. And then after that, I'm gonna be focusing on farming in-game materials and sort of get progression in that way. And hopefully that's sort of easy to do, not like super difficult. Obviously, I want the bosses to have interesting mechanics, and so far they have. The dodging is pretty intuitive in the game. But as a sort of heads up for later videos, I'm going to be covering Etheria Restart when it does launch, because I played the final playtest and it was super fun. I believe it launches on June 5th, and I do want to sink my teeth into that game, because I am so excited. It's just a lot of good mechanics, a lot of good things happening in that game. So I'm planning on streaming that game when it does come out. And then the stream that they're gonna have, I'm gonna react to on stream. So look forward to that. That'll be there, and I will be there, and I'll probably play a little bit of Crystal of Atlan after that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. So see ya.